The next morning, the town of Halford woke to a strange calm. The night had brought no storms, no warnings, but for Leora, everything had changed. She awoke in her small chamber aboard the starship. Her silver hair spread like liquid moonlight across the floor. She looked out through the transparent wall at the town below. Humans were beginning their day. Children running to school, workers heading to factories, and families exchanging small smiles and greetings. Leora's mind buzzed with questions. Yesterday had shown her only a glimpse of human life, a small fragment of their intricate social patterns. She wanted to know more than observations, more than watching from a distance. She wanted to understand. Stepping lightly to the hatch, she descended into Halford once more. Her mission was clear. She would interact. She would ask, learn, and if possible, participate. The first person she sought was Ethan, the man who had spoken to her yesterday. She found him near the park, feeding his dog a small piece of bread. He looked surprised but not alarmed to see her again. "Good morning, Ethan," she said, her voice like soft music. "I wish to continue learning." Ethan raised an eyebrow, unsure whether to laugh or take her seriously. "Good morning." "Leora, learning is a long journey, you know. Humans are complicated." "I am ready," she said simply. Her gaze was steady, curious, and earnest. Ethan sighed, but something in her determination struck him. "All right, but we must start small. Not everything is physical. Humans have rules, feelings, and strange habits. We will take it slowly." Leora nodded eagerly. "Slowly is acceptable. I have time." Their first stop was the local cafe. The smell of fresh bread and coffee filled Leora's senses. She observed humans interacting in subtle ways, greetings, smiles, gestures of affection, and casual jokes. She asked questions that startled Ethan, like, why do humans smile when they are nervous? Why do they touch each other's shoulders when they speak? Why does the young couple hold hands? Is it ritual? Ethan chuckled nervously. Sometimes it's just comfort. Sometimes it's connection. Humans show emotions physically because words are not always enough. Leora tilted her head, fascinated. Connection? Yes, that is important. As the day progressed, she observed humans in multiple settings. At the market, she watched how families negotiated prices with laughter and gentle teasing. At the school playground, she marveled at children's innocence, their laughter echoing like music. Each interaction taught her something new. Humans were not just physical beings. They were emotional, social, and deeply unpredictable. But the most intriguing moments came when she tried to mimic human behaviors herself. At first, her attempts were awkward. She tried to smile like the cafe clerk, but her expression looked more like a serene glow of light than a human smile. She reached out to shake hands with an elderly man, and he jumped back in surprise. "Apologies," she said in a voice calm as a stream. "I am learning, not perfect," Ethan laughed. "No, you're definitely not perfect, but that's fine. Humans learn through mistakes too." Leora considered this. Mistakes is part of learning, an odd yet fascinating concept. In her culture, mistakes were minimized. Actions were calculated, predictable, and precise. Humans, she realized, grew and adapted through trial and error, and somehow it made them stronger, more flexible, more alive. Her curiosity about reproduction, however, remained at the forefront of her mind. She did not yet fully understand human intimacy, and that puzzled her more than anything else. During lunch at a small outdoor cafe, she noticed a young couple sharing a dessert, feeding each other small bites with shy glances. "They share food," she whispered to Ethan. "Is this related to reproduction?" Ethan chuckled, shaking his head. "Not directly, but sharing is about trust and connection. Humans show love in many small ways before other things happen." Leora's eyes widened. "Connection, before other things. I see." She scribbled in a small notebook she carried, her alien handwriting curling elegantly across the pages. Humans. Bond slowly. Emotion. First. Fascinating. The afternoon brought a small lesson in humor. Leora tried telling a joke she had learned from Ethan the day before. It involved a human pun about a cat and a sandwich. When she delivered it, she mispronounced the word slightly, and the humans around her laughed. Not at the joke itself, but at her strange way of saying it. Leora tilted her head in confusion. "They'd laugh at me?" Ethan smiled. "Not at you, with you. Humor is strange. It builds bonds, makes people comfortable. You laughed too, didn't you?" Yes, I did, Leora admitted, a faint glow coloring her cheeks. Humor is social glue. I understand now. By late afternoon, Leora felt she had absorbed a wealth of knowledge. She had learned about small gestures, sharing, humor, and trust. But she still had questions. Questions about the more intimate and private aspects of human life. Ethan, she asked quietly as they walked by a stream, your people, do humans and reproduce differently than my species? Ethan hesitated. Yes, much differently. But it's not just biology. Humans, it's about feelings, love, trust, connection, choice. All of that matters. Leora nodded, though her mind raced. Connection, trust, choice. These are new variables I must understand fully. As the sun dipped behind the hills, casting long shadows across the town, Leora and Ethan returned to her starship. She observed the humans she passed, couples walking hand in hand, children playing, friends laughing. She noted every gesture, every glance, every whisper of interaction. That night, she sat in her chamber, her notebook full of observations. She wrote carefully, humans are unpredictable. Their gestures, their emotions, they are intertwined. Physical acts are meaningful only with emotional context. I wish to understand this completely. Perhaps with guidance I can experience it myself. Her thoughts were interrupted by a soft knock on her ship's hatch. Ethan had brought a small basket of food, a human gesture of kindness he had explained earlier. I thought you might need this, he said, smiling. You've been observing humans all day. You need sustenance. Leora took the basket and studied it with fascination. Gift, sustenance, trust. Yes, I see. Humans show care before other things. I am beginning to understand. Ethan laughed softly. Yes, humans are messy, confusing, and wonderful. You'll see more as time goes on. Leora looked at him, her eyes reflecting the soft glow of the ship's interior lights. Wonderful. Yes, and I wish to try to learn, not just by observing, but by participating, slowly, carefully, as humans do. Ethan nodded, though he felt a mix of curiosity and apprehension. We'll go slowly, step by step. There's a lot to learn, Leora. I am ready, she said, her voice calm but determined. I wish to understand humans, fully. And so the next phase of her journey began. Leora's fascination with humans was no longer mere curiosity. It was personal. She had seen their behaviors, learned their small rituals, and begun to grasp their emotional depth. Each human she encountered taught her something new, each gesture and word a key to a puzzle she had longed to solve. As she prepared to sleep, her thoughts wandered to the young couple she had seen earlier, holding hands in the cafe. The trust, care, and subtle affection they displayed lingered in her mind. She realized that human connection was more than the sum of its parts. It was trust, it was patience, it was courage, and she wanted to experience that. Perhaps one day, not just as an observer, but as a participant. In the quiet of the night, Leora's heart, so unlike a human heart yet capable of wonder, beat with excitement. Tomorrow would bring more lessons, more discoveries, and perhaps more challenges. But she was ready. Humans were strange, unpredictable, and endlessly fascinating. And Leora was determined to understand every part of them, from the simplest gestures to the deepest secrets of the human heart. The sky over Colony Prime was calm, painted with soft shades of pink and orange. The air smelled faintly of metal and soil, a strange combination that had become normal for the humans who lived there. Dr. Elias moved carefully along the edge of the landing field, his eyes scanning the horizon. Something unusual had been detected on the sensors earlier, and the colony's automated systems couldn't identify it. A flash of blue light tore across the sky, accompanied by a low hum. The sensors blared a warning. Something had entered the atmosphere. Elias's heart skipped. He had dealt with meteorites and satellites before, but this was different. The object was small, moving fast and emitting a faint energy signature unlike anything human technology produced. As the craft landed roughly in a nearby field, dust and debris kicked up around it. Smoke twisted into the sky and a soft, high-pitched sound came from inside. Dr. Elias ran toward the landing site, his boots crunching on the dry soil. When he arrived, he saw the wreckage, a small silvery pod scorched and dented lying on its side. Then he noticed the movement. A small figure crawled out. It was a girl, Her skin shimmered faintly in the sunset, a delicate mix of pale blue and soft silver. Her hair floated slightly, almost as if it were weightless, and her eyes were enormous, black like liquid night, reflecting the world around her. She looked fragile, scared, and entirely alone. Dr. Elias crouched slowly, keeping his hands visible. "It's okay," he said softly. "I'm not going to hurt you," the girl froze. She looked at him, tilting her head in a way that seemed almost curious. Then, trembling, she crawled closer, her hands brushing the dirt. She made no sound, only emitting a faint hum like a whisper of wind through metal. Elias reached out. "Can you understand me?" he asked gently. The girl blinked, then shook her head. Her lips moved, but no sound came. She pointed at the ground, then at herself, then at Elias. It was clear she was trying to communicate, but the language barrier was immediate and complete. He sighed, realizing the colony would need to make a decision soon. But something in her eyes, innocent, unafraid, and curious, stopped him from calling for security. He had dealt with refugees, survivors, even hostile aliens before, but this was different. This girl was not a threat. She was lost. Elias gently lifted her into his arms. She stiffened at first, but then relaxed slightly, as if trusting him despite not knowing him. Her skin was cold to the touch, but soft. He noticed faint markings along her arms and neck, glowing faintly, almost like tattoos, but alive with energy. Back at the colony medical bay, the team worked quickly. They tested her vital signs. Everything was stable, though her biology was unlike anything human scanners had seen. She could breathe the colony's air, but her internal organs were arranged differently. Her heartbeat was irregular but steady, and her body emitted faint pulses of energy that flickered like distant stars. Elias knelt by her bed. She sat quietly, clutching a small metallic object she had retrieved from the pod. It was smooth and oval-shaped, glowing softly in her hands. She pressed it against her chest, then looked at Elias, her eyes wide and expectant. "Do you need this?" he asked. She shook her head, then pointed at him, then at the object, and then made a small gesture with her hand like offering it. Elias took the object carefully, realizing it was some kind of personal item. He placed it on the bedside table. The girl's gaze softened. She reached out her hand to him, and he held it gently. There was a faint warmth that spread from her fingers to his palm. Elias had read about empathy in alien species, how some could transmit feelings through touch, but he hadn't expected it. The sensation was faint, comforting, and oddly human. The colony administrators were called in. They debated what to do. She was not human, and the law had no provision for alien children. They could keep her in the colony, but she would not have rights, not even as a ward. Some suggested she be sent to an interstellar research facility. Elias disagreed vehemently. "She's a child," he said, his voice firm. "She needs care. She's scared. She's alone. We cannot just turn her over to bureaucracy." The council remained silent, weighing the risks. Elias knew he would have to act quickly. In his heart, he had already made a decision. He would protect her. She was a living being, innocent and vulnerable. Humanity, he reminded himself, was at its best when it showed compassion, even to those different from itself. The girl had begun exploring the room quietly. She touched the medical instruments, her fingers hovering over the buttons, her eyes reflecting fascination. She paused when she saw her reflection in the metal surfaces. For the first time, she seemed to realize her difference. She pressed a hand to her chest, then to her heart, and her eyes filled with a faint shimmer of emotion, something like longing. Elias knelt beside her again. "Do you want a family?" he asked, testing a word he had heard on old recordings. The girl tilted her head. She drew a shape in the air with her finger, a simple figure of a person holding a smaller figure's hand. She pointed at the small figure and then at him. Elias understood immediately. "You want a parent?" She nodded slowly, blinking as if this was the first time she had been able to express it. Her lips formed shapes that made no sound, but the meaning was clear. She wanted to belong. She wanted to be someone's daughter. The weight of that thought settled over Elias. He looked at her, small and fragile, and felt a surge of protectiveness. This was why humans had survived so far in the galaxy. Not because of strength or technology, but because of their ability to care, to take responsibility for one another. Even in the vast loneliness of space, compassion could define a species. Days passed. The girl, whom Elias began calling Lyra because it was the name she had drawn repeatedly in the air, adjusted slowly to the colony. She learned to eat human food, though she preferred raw fruits and minerals she had brought from her pod. She experimented with writing, drawing strange symbols in the sand which Elias tried to interpret. Despite her differences, she connected with the colonists in small, subtle ways. She helped a young engineer fix a broken hover cart by intuitively sensing the flow of energy. She comforted a scared child during a power outage by holding her hand and humming softly, a sound that resonated with everyone nearby. Yet, the legal problem loomed. The colony's law could not recognize her as a human child. She had no species-based protection. Only a human signature could make her a ward, a child legally protected under human law. Elias knew it would take time, and time was something Lyra did not have in abundance. One evening, Elias found her sitting alone on the observation deck. The twin moons rose over the horizon, casting silver light across her shimmering skin. She stared at them silently, her small hands resting on her knees. "You miss your home," Elias said softly. She nodded. Then she pointed at him and drew two figures holding hands, one larger, one smaller. He understood. She was asking, hoping, that he could be her father. Elias felt a lump in his throat. He had cared for many children in his life, but this was different. Lyra had no past, no family, no planet left. Yet here she was, reaching out with trust that transcended species, language, and laws. He sat beside her, gently taking her hand. "I will try," he promised. "I will do everything I can to make sure you belong somewhere, to someone." She leaned slightly toward him, her hand tightening around his. For the first time since she arrived, Lyra smiled. It was a small, fragile smile, but it carried the weight of hope. In that moment, Elias understood something profound. Humanity's greatest strength was not technology, not weapons, not colonies, but the choice to protect and care for others, even those entirely different from themselves. As the night deepened, Lyra closed her eyes, resting against Elias. Outside, the colony lights glimmered, and the twin moons reflected on the distant horizon. Humanity had shown her kindness first, and she had responded with trust. It was a quiet victory, but a powerful one. The first step in a journey that would test law, morality, and the boundless capacity of humans to rise to their highest ideals. And so began Lyra's new life. Not as a lost alien child, but as someone who dared to dream of being a daughter, with a human heart ready to make her wish real.